A lot of entrepreneurs say this, but it's true. It's knowing what your weaknesses are, like what are you great at and what are you just good at? And then what are you not good at? Really having a sense of awareness. I'd say that was one of the biggest lessons that helped me, not just in business, but as a human being. And it allows so much more space for me to grow, to make space for others, to be more compassionate in everything I do.
Hi, I'm Christina Barsi. Welcome to the Boss Goddess podcast. This is your invitation to step out of the hustle and into your purpose and passion. What's my secret? Podcasting. This is how I've up-leveled my life on multiple occasions when I was ready to bring my dreams to life. And it's how I help my clients realize their big dreams. This is where you become the boss goddess in your niche and gently bring your dreams to life. Hi, welcome back. The episode I want to share with you today is actually an interview I did with the Future of Work podcast, which is another one I also produce. And I chose this one because I think this will resonate with you. Well, many of you, because a lot of you are artists and you have your own creative business, or you're thinking of having your own creative business or something similar. And in this interview, I share my journey of how I got started and turned my passions and my creativity into an entrepreneurial journey, as well as some of the hurdles I experienced along the way. So if you're asking yourself questions right now, like how do I take the leap or how do I shift my creativity into something more, then this one's for you. Before we jump into this episode, I have a question for you. Are you a new coach who's feeling genuinely called to starting your own podcast, but you're getting overwhelmed the second it turns into a content hamster wheel of daily posts on social media, lots of clips, and starting a YouTube channel? I'm here to tell you that most successful podcasters did not begin with video. They started with audio and grew from there. You don't need fancy equipment. You don't need to start with a YouTube channel. And you don't even need to be on social media when you're starting your podcast. You just need to get clear on these three things. What success looks like for you when getting started, what matters now in the beginning and what doesn't, and how audio podcasting builds the very foundation for your new business. That's why I created a free audio podcasting action plan that will help you create a simple, grounded roadmap so you can start in the way that makes sense for you, your energy, and your budget so that you can let go of all that noise. You can download the simple action plan at boss-goddess.co/action plan and start mapping out your aligned starting point right now, because podcasting works best when it's serving you, not the other way around. You can grab it at boss-goddess.co/action plan or just click the link in the show notes. Now back to our episode. In this episode, hosts Salvatrice Cummo and Leslie Thompson chat entrepreneurship, the path to starting, surviving, and succeeding, and what it means to be a woman in a male-dominant industry while also taking into account the uncertainties of building a business in a new media like podcasting. And the guest today is yours truly. I'm Christina Barsi, the founder of Avant Haüs Media and the producer of this podcast. Here's my journey of artist turned owner.
Welcome back to the Future of Work podcast. I am your host today, Salvatrice Cummo, and here today with my co-host again, Leslie Thompson. Leslie, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I'm excited that we get to chat today with Barsi, founder of Avant Haüs Media and our producer for the show. Barsi, how are you?
I am fantastic. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today.
Yes. No, we were thinking not too long ago. We've done these podcasts, these episodes, and you are a producer and you help navigate and you do all these great things with us and coach us and do production, et cetera, et cetera. And you're a founder, you're an entrepreneur, and you have a journey and a story. And so we want to hear about it. We want our audience to hear about it because it's a beautiful story to tell.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're very welcome.
That's right, Salvatrice. We're very excited to be talking with Barsi today, and I know we had talked about kind of an overview. We wanted to talk about her career trajectory and the role that community college played in that, and kind of get her story all the way through school and how she ended up where she is today as an entrepreneur in her own business, and kind of talk about some of the challenges she had. So if you're up for that, Barsi, we're ready to go if you are.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, let's start with the first point. Can you tell us a little bit about your career trajectory and the role that community college played?
Absolutely. So I was your typical aspiring actor. And the way I kind of fell into that originally was, well, high school, my English teacher was like, you should take the drama class. And I was like, okay.
I love it.
I will do that. And then had a lot of fun. And I was a very shy person. So for me, it served other parts of my personality that needed to sort of blossom and come out. And I wanted to get out of my own way. So theater really helped me get out of my own way, find my voice, and turned out I was pretty good at it. So I fell in love with it and found a mentor pretty quickly in the community college space. I went to Mount San Antonio College, woohoo, which is...
Yay, sister college.
Yes.
For sure. One of our ring colleges, yes.
Yes.
Yes, I love PCC, but I also very much love Mount San Antonio College. And I handpicked it as if I were searching for 4 years. I was very particular. It was an hour away from my house. It was not out of convenience by any means. It was very much a curated experience that I wanted to have, and I was very intentional about that.
Why'd you pick Mount Sac? Just curious.
At the time, well, one factor was I wanted it to be an hour away from my house. I was, 17, turning 18, and really wanting my freedom. So that did play a factor, I have to admit. The other one was I loved the campus. It had some history to it, and I liked there was a lot of programs, and something about it just spoke to me. I think it was kind of a gut choice at the end of the day, but I don't regret any part of it. I took all the classes the very first semester I got there that I would have dreamt up. And it was like women in literature and environment, humans in the environment, and theater and philosophy. And I was like, this is what I was supposed to be doing. Like, this is great. So I was excited. And fast forward a little bit, I did well in the theater group there. Ralph Eastman, shout out to Ralph Eastman. He was my first sort of mentor that wanted to kind of take me under his wing and kind of show me how to, be a better actor, but also just kind of learn what it means to be a human, because acting is all about kind of learning about yourself and finding your true voice so that you can be as present as you can in every role and on stage and with your other, actors, basically. So we went to competition. I was nominated a couple of times to go compete. That was really special. And Ralph drove us each time to Utah and to San Francisco and places like that. So that was like a very unique experience, very, very special. And from there, I ended up joining the forensics team, which is the speech and debate team for anyone who thinks of forensics as, what is it?
I was just going to say,
CSI.
Are you doing criminal investigations? Like, what's going on?
No.
I didn't see that coming, Barsi. I didn't see that coming.
I know. There's some sci-fi I'll get to later, which I will touch on slightly because it's part of the story. But forensics actually means seeking knowledge. So that's why speech and debate is called the forensics team, typically.
I see.
Yeah. So Liesl Reinhardt was my honors communications teacher there. Yeah.
And she's our dean here at Pasadena City College. Dr.
Yes.
Reinhardt. Yeah.
Maybe you're starting to catch on to how I ended up working with you. So she's threaded throughout my whole life, really. So I was about 20 years old at the time, and she's still a big part of my life. I just had her on a panel a couple weeks ago that I was hosting as well. So pretty cool. So she made a big impact on me. There's a lot going on in my life at the time, and just the way that she coaches and led that team to victory every year, every competition, no fail. I mean, we won gold. Like, it was just a piece of cake because of the level of care and coaching that went into that team. It was amazing. And I'd never won anything before. I did not win those theater competitions, by the way. So being able to walk over to the speech team and do that for a year and just kill it. She was also the person who was like, okay, it's time for you to transfer now. You can't stay here forever. And she kind of kicked my butt to do that as well. So that's kind of where I started with my interest in the arts, my interest in communication, my interest in speaking, and all of that. So fast forward to, after college, and I ended up wanting to pursue acting and got my lead role on stage right after college and thought that I was, the everything. So I was like, well, I'm moving straight to LA. I'm going to make it. And turned out I didn't really enjoy the process. I didn't really enjoy what has to happen in order to be a working actor. The audition process was difficult for me because I was only getting sent out for modeling jobs and for commercials that were like for Spike TV or things that ultimately felt misaligned for my spirit. And
Right.
I felt a little degraded each time and was like, this is not what I came here for. How do I get out of this like hamster wheel? and what does this all mean? And is this what this is going to be? So I kind of hit a wall around like age 29, 30, around that time. And it was very difficult for me to look at it and possibly give up this thing I've been in love with for over 10 years, my whole adult life at that point, and ask myself the hard questions. What is it? What does this mean to you? What is it that you really want? And what does it mean for you to be a creative person and an artist? And maybe it's not acting. Maybe it's something else, maybe who knows? So I quit my acting class and gave myself a minute to kind of like reflect on all of that and started writing roles that I wanted to play for myself. And this is where the sci-fi comes in. I ended up writing a science fiction story called Dimension.
Oh, wow. We're going to have to read that. You've never shared that with us.
Well,
I had a feeling, though. I really had a feeling. I had a feeling there was a sci-fi
there was
background there somewhere.
Something nerdy in there.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
Yeah, I got really obsessed with time theory and was like, well, how can I explore this further and still write, the badass women I want to play? And how can that all work together? So this story, Dimension, ended up being my first podcast. So you can actually listen to it.
Wow. I'll have to find it.
Yeah. So that's how I got into podcasting. And it was back in, 2012 when I was like joining the other people who were doing the podcast stuff that let me come and tell my story with their group. And we launched in 2013. So this is a long time ago. I didn't know what podcasting was. Most people didn't. And I would just tell people it was a radio play because I didn't know what else to call it.
Yeah.
And we had sound effects and music, and I wrote scripts every week, and we did it for 2 years. And it made me fall in love with art in a way that I never had, because I was creating this world myself and everyone showed up to play along. And that was the most magical
That's so cool.
experience. Yeah. So then I fell in love with podcasting, of course. And, here we are now. So you can see the impact that had.
And I'm sure it wasn't an easy road to get here. I think that, would you say that the next phase of your discovery process and being an entrepreneur, whoa, you go from really self-discovery to now entrepreneurial discoveries, and that has so many different, just so many hiccups, so many great things and not so great things.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it's a journey, which is
for sure
full of all the bumps and turns and curves and dips and and successes and surprises too, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? How you made that transition from discovering this is what you want to do? I love that you said you fell in love with the art. I mean, that speaks to me. I think that's amazing. So you fall in love, then what? How do you take it from falling in love to actually building something sustainable that pays your bills?
Absolutely. So what happened was I was so elated with everything we just created that I decided I would produce a documentary about this experience. So that was my first, I mean, I have to say, funding a film is like starting a business, especially if you've never done it before. So that was kind of my first step out in doing something bigger. And through that, we finished the film, and it was a 25-minute documentary called Is Anyone Listening? A Podcast Story. And it was a love letter to the experience, to artists, to creators, and to the new media, podcasting. And people didn't know what it was yet. So it was kind of like, this is what this is. This is what it can look like. This is how it can change your life. Because it was truly what it was doing for me. And we did festivals. So we got into some festivals. We premiered at Sci-Fi London, which was a dream come true. And because we were talking about audio and performance in this way, there's a lot of audio geeks out there, turns out. And people kind of fell in love with the content, like the idea of just radio plays and telling a story this way. So we got extra things out of the film festival experience. People would create, or the festival directors would create these sort of special events for us where we would be featured, or one of them I got to perform Dimension, so the script. I got to fly out some of my players, and they asked us if we would actually do a reading as well after our screening at the film festival. And that was like amazing. I'd always wanted to do it live. And what happened was, this is where it connects to how I started a business, because I couldn't bring my crew. I couldn't bring my sound people or my production team or my sound effects guy. And I was like, oh no, like I have 2 weeks to figure this out and I have to do it myself. And how am I going to do that? So I quickly learned how to sound design. I quickly learned how to put together a digital soundboard and find the technology to do that, and threw together a special script and did all of this in a couple of weeks' time before we had to go perform.
Wow.
And I was so impressed with myself that I was like, I can do anything. I can do whatever I want. And I quit my job. I quit my day job the weekend before I was supposed to leave for this festival. And I was like, I'm going to go follow my dreams. And I've been wanting to be an entrepreneur for a long time, which I hadn't mentioned yet. I was kind of like geeked out on entrepreneurship by this point already, just watching how other people did it and not understanding, like, when am I going to make the jump? It's so scary. Like, how do people do it? You know? So I just literally did it and just did it. And I went to this festival and I saw someone speak, and I was like, I need to talk to him after. And I went up to him and I told him I was a podcast producer, which I wasn't yet. And that I had a company.
That's right.
And that,
small detail.
Yeah. And that, you know, he should call me.
Nice.
He was like, okay. And I ran into him later that night, and he'd been obsessing over the idea, and he was so like excited. And he was like, we need to talk. I was like, great. Yeah, let's talk. And we were just, you know, firing ideas. And he was a manager of a lot of very famous YouTubers. And he's like, I have someone for you. I know who you should launch with. And I told him everything. I was like, this is what I want to do. I haven't started yet, but this is what I've done. And he was just so excited with me. So he's another mentor, it turns out. He just kind of was like, I want to help you. And he gave me my first client. And her name is Laura Clary. She's very popular in the YouTube space. And I got to work with her as my first person. And I started my business officially a couple months after that, in January of 2018. And this was in the fall of 2017 when I was, you know, lying to people about my company. I told him, you know, the truth immediately, but I just wanted to bait his interest, and it worked.
Nice.
Well, did you find that it was a male dominated sector? I mean, did you anticipate that? And how do you navigate that as a young female entrepreneur in a very, you know, white male dominated space?
Exactly. Very good question. And you're absolutely right. It was very white male dominated. It still is technically. I mean, the numbers are still leaning in that direction. It's grown a lot since then, even in the short amount of time that has passed. But going into podcasting industry events, it's just an ocean of men. You go to a conference and it's hard to find the faces that look like you. You know what I mean? And that's usually how we feel related, and how we can normalize the situation is when we see faces that look like our own, or hear voices that sound like us. It's very important for like younger people, especially to see that and hear that in media and everywhere. So it's a little off-putting when something is so saturated in one direction. So the space has been making a lot of efforts to try, the industry as a whole, to make it more of a diverse place. Women are really leaning into it. The stats I remember from about a year ago, when women were about at 41% of the industry, where they were way, way lower than that before, just like a year before.
You had mentioned like going to these events and not seeing yourself represented, and the importance of, kind of alluded to the importance of representation in these arenas. Mm-hmm. And I wondered if the work that you do as a mentor for other young women or is it...
Well, I did start to do some outreach last year I was offering free coaching to anyone, Black creators first, and then just anyone of color, because I believe diversity is the best way for us all to have a clear and real representation of the world. We're not seeing all the perspectives if we are missing that many voices. Mm-hmm. So it's important to me to use this platform in that way as well. And I wanted to just make time for that. Again, it's important for us to have a full picture of what the world is, and we need more voices to reflect that.
And not only that, just feeling like connected.
Exactly.
That feeling of connection and community. And, it's really kind of this community-led effort to build awareness, to, be of support to one another, and so that you don't feel alone. I think because oftentimes as entrepreneurs, we do feel alone. We're out there.
Yes.
Right? And it's lonely. It's a very lonely experience.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what we don't know.
Yes.
Right? And then we end up stumbling across obstacles that we hadn't really thought about, or better yet, like we keep talking about obstacles, but you know what? Sometimes there's an abundance of success, and entrepreneurs have a hard time navigating that as well. I'm sure you've experienced that, right? Where you've experienced mm-hmm. this growth, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like how do I manage that? Is that a true statement?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you touched on so many things. I'm like just seeing flashes of my life go by as you are mentioning these points, because it's true. It's like this very up and down experience, and being in, you were talking about hurdles and stuff, being in a new media. There's not that many colleagues to reach out to and go, how are you doing this? I didn't know anybody else doing it when I started. Mm-hmm. And there was just no one to reach to. And you couldn't even Google podcast production at the time. There was only traditional production to look to. And those numbers don't make sense for this space. It just doesn't translate the same way. Neither does the systems or the organization for it. So it's sort of a strange navigation right. at the beginning because of that. And it's like such a relief now to be able to Google something and go and have information come up. So that's the first year and a half, I'd say, of what this experience has been. And then thanks to COVID, a lot of people were mm-hmm. at home and sort of navigating their days differently. And I noticed a big surge in people who wanted to either start something new, or who already had podcasts wanting to really lean in because they weren't paying. Some of my clients would pay for studios and things of that nature, or we record in the field. They kind of had more liberty to do more because they were building home studios and doing things at home. So when all you have to do is sit down in front of your computer, now all the ideas start coming and you want to do
right.
more. And like,
right. You're kind of forced to be creative. You're giving yourself that permission, that space to.
Yeah. Yeah. And some people had the brain space for it, or some people had, whatever it was, that suddenly there was a surge and it was just nonstop, I was so grateful for it. but I've never experienced so much burnout in my life either. And
that's interesting.
Yeah.
You got burnt out from it? You were burned out from it?
Absolutely. I mean, I was working 90 hours a week for weeks and weeks and weeks. And it was just impossible to take a break because then something wouldn't get published. Yeah. And then things were changing so much that what would happen is some of these episodes are timely and then you'd have to can them because the information wasn't relevant anymore. So you'd be double producing sometimes. So we have multiple shows where this is happening. You know, you're now doing the same thing 2 or 3 times over just to try to get one episode out for one client. And then also everyone's new to doing it themselves, where they used to have a team. You know, we'd go into studio or we'd have multiple moving parts where they could just show up. They can't do that anymore. So now I'm in session with everyone as well. So my time and my days were just so packed with holding everyone and having space for their process and for their work that, which I loved, honestly, was that I learned so much and there was so much I gained from that experience, but the burnout was just inevitable and very real. And it came in waves. So
for sure.
Yeah. So it was interesting. And that can sink a company very quickly if you can't keep up. I had to learn how to put systems in place very fast.
What kind of systems were they?
Well, I have to admit that one of it was just, financial. I hired an assistant and I just finally was like, I need more people on my team. I need a team is what it boiled down to. So, but the idea of like onboarding a whole bunch of people was also like overwhelming. And it's like, when am I going to do that?
It takes time to train people. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a process for sure. And now I have a small team, but so shout out to Brandy, shout out to Daniel, shout out to Clint, shout out to Elizabeth, shout out to Brandon.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And they are what helped make this doable. And it was they're all such good people. The experience was so intimate that they would check in on me and be like, is there anything I can take off your plate? Is there, what can I do? Stuff like that really, really helped make the experience a whole experience for everyone, because people wanted to feel needed as well. Like a lot of people lost their jobs, So it was this gift to be able to hire people because they wanted jobs. And then through having to bring people on, you have to find systems so that you can delegate well. And that just boiled down to organization, finding organizational tools and better ways to streamline the exchange of communication and assets. And that's really what it boiled down to.
Those are some serious growing pains.
Oh, yeah. But I'm reaping the benefits now because all the systems are working, thank God.
Yay.
Yeah. And I finally have rid myself of that feeling that I had for the last year or 2 or 3.
Are you referring to the crippling anxiety?
So much. I realized I was living in a fight or flight state for quite a while as well. That came into view. One of the hurdles personally was I suffered a concussion in 2018.
Oh my goodness.
And 2019, excuse me. And that was a very difficult thing to grow my business through because it was a new business. So trying to figure things out when you have a head injury is very difficult.
Sounds like a challenge.
I would bet it is. My goodness. And no one knew, I'm sure. And you can't say anything to your clients because that jeopardizes
their trust.
Their trust. That's
At least that's what my fear was, is that it could jeopardize their trust. And I didn't want them to worry, and I didn't want them to have to worry about anything but what they were creating anyway. So that is an isolating experience too, because there's not a lot of information about concussions either. So isolation was very much a part of my life for much longer than COVID-19 has been in play.
Wow.
And so what does it look like for you to stay connected so that you don't feel isolated as someone who's contributing to the gig economy? How do you do that?
Right. So that's another good thing to point out, is that when you are in a gig economy, which I feel is where things are headed and are in a lot of ways already in terms of the workspace. So just to circle back to anyone who's listening who might be a student, really thinking and looking to your future in a different way. It's not as traditional as it used to be in regards to how you have a job, how you work towards getting that job. There are just, there's a lot of like gig economy stuff that turns into longer positions. And that's how I started. It felt like a gig, and then it became more of a business.
A real,
yeah,
something you were doing all the time versus just a little side hustle.
Yeah. I mean, I was doing it all the time, which is like gig is a deceiving label, right? Because it's not really a gig, but
sure.
You're freelancing. So technically it is. So it's this funny, like in between thing where you're like, this is not a gig. This is like a full-time job for sure. But we're not making like business money yet, you know?
I'm curious, you mentioned earlier about processes, and we wanted to hear a little bit about that. What skills are required to be successful in this kind of environment? Like in order to be successful in a gig that's actually a full-time job, or to strike out on your own as an entrepreneur, what skills do you need to be successful? And do you get them in school, or do you learn them on the ground? Or
yeah, great question. And I didn't really answer yours, Salvatrice, about how to stay connected. So I'll try to work these both in together. So I realized how much organization is a tool. I wasn't the most organized person, and as just a trait, it's not really my thing. I organize in my own messy way, like seeing my assistant put together spreadsheets is just like this beautiful experience to me. I'm like, wow.
Isn't that impressive?
It really is. And like a lot of entrepreneurs say this, but it's true. It's knowing what your weaknesses are. Like, what are you great at and what are you just good at? And then what are you not good at? So like really having a sense of awareness and being like letting go of the ego and being okay with knowing that you're going to be in a learning space forever. Like that's just the way life is. And if you can accept that and not need to know everything at all times, I'd say that was one of the biggest lessons that helped me, not just in business, but as a human being. And it allows so much more space for me to grow, to make space for others, to be more compassionate in everything I do. It works inside out in that way for me, and learning that it's very humbling, right? It's constant pivoting. It's constant, like, what's coming next? I'm not sure. Be ready for it to change. Overall understanding of that, I think, is one of the biggest lessons, but still knowing how to prepare through that. So how do you prepare through something that may always be changing? I'm in a new media as well. So it's good to point that out, that not every space is as pivoting as mine might be. The podcast space is new media. We're still learning what it is. And even though it's been around now, people know what it is for at least 5 or 6 years, or like 7, going on 7 years prominently. There's still a lot that's changing. And
sure, it's constantly evolving.
Right. So knowing that, it's like, how do you prepare through that? And it really does boil down to being okay with not knowing who can fill the holes that you're maybe not great at, knowing how to delegate, letting go. It's hard when it's your own. You hold really tight, at least I do. And most of us do when it's something that we've created. It's like hard to give that to other people to handle sometimes. And knowing how to best use your time. Your time is valuable. It's the one thing that you really have, that you can manipulate. And if you're getting bogged down with operations all the time, or with skills that are harder for you but might be easier for someone else that can do it quicker, that's maybe not the best use of your time. So again, it's like constantly reassessing, like, okay, like what's on the table today? Who needs to do what? What's going to be the best use of my time to serve the small picture and the big picture all at the same time? Those are the skills that I think I've most learned. And I worked in hospitality for a long time, and honestly, that's the most multitasky. Like, you have to have your hands, like,
sure.
You have to have eyes everywhere. You have to know what's going on in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. You have to know what's going on the floor. You have to know what's going on with your back staff. You have to know what's going on with your teammates, and
a lot going on for sure.
So I feel like I learned those skills doing that kind of work. And seeing how it translates into this space has been kind of interesting. And then for others, I think for me, it's most important to have soft skills over hard skills. I think there's some hard skills that are imperative to serve the job, whatever the task is. But most of those things you can kind of teach up or, give some guidance on. I'm more interested in someone who's invested, who's willing to learn and grow. You need to have that self-motivation and team player-ness.
I think that also underscores what we hear from employers in general in terms of like the skills that are required. There's more need for the soft skills that aren't necessarily always being taught, or students aren't graduating with all these other skills. You can learn hard skills. I used to work in retail, and we used to say, hire for personality, we'll train for everything else. Right. Because you got to have those kind of soft skills. And I think what you just said supports that idea that, like you said, you're willing to train someone as long as they have these other things in place.
And to harken back to some of our previous episodes, I think Josh Davies points it out really well each time when he says, it's the human skills.
Speaking of human skills, dare I ask this question?
Uh-oh.
As founder, creator of Avant Haüs Media, what is next? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to take your company in the next, year? I know it's super fluid right now and things are so delicate, but what does it look like for you in the upcoming year?
Great question. I think about this. I obsess over this question daily because I'm a futurist and I love dreaming about what's next. And that's how I got to where I am, I'd say, because it's all about putting action to those ideas, right? So I think about this a lot. Most of my focus at the moment is wanting to lean into more mentorship. You brought that up in our conversation earlier, and I would like to lean into that more. That's where my heart really lies. It's something that I realized through this experience with Avant Haüs Media as well, through working with clients, is that I really enjoy the consulting part. I love coaching people into their voice. I love, just showing people that they have what it takes, that their voice matters, and that I can show them how to do the rest. It's just their passion, their stories, their ideas, their backgrounds, that they deserve to be heard. And I love that process. So I'm leaning into doing more things like that. I would like to do some more writing. Hopefully, there might be a book in the future.
That's so cool.
Thank you. I love the podcast space. So I'll be probably teaching on that more. I'd like to speak more. I just want to show up more. I want more space to show up in ways that help people understand how to fulfill their own dreams, really.
That's good to know, because as we grow our own programming here and our division, now we know.
Send me all the people.
This has been such a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much, Barsi. Not only for this particular episode, but being a mentor and a guide for us.
That's right.
As we develop our own podcast channel. There's so much I've learned. Through this process with you, and I just wanted to thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been such a delight. I really, really enjoy working with the both of you and everyone else on the team at UWD and Future of Work and Pasadena City College, and I've learned a lot myself. So thank you.
For sure.
Thank you so much for listening to the Boss Goddess podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and found it valuable, please share it with someone in your life who would also benefit. Word of mouth is still the best way to share podcasts. And I would also love to hear from you in the form of a review on Apple Podcasts. This really helps new listeners discover the show as well. And it makes this process for me so much more fulfilling to hear from you. Wishing you lots of love and magic. Until next time.